Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show as we're live Thursday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. This is our Friday edition. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, legendary Hall of Fame boxing writer Jack Hirsch. We're live on YouTube, we're live on Roku TV, and we're live on Facebook right now. We'll be on other platforms after the show as we share it to every known platform in the world, including our audio platforms. Jack, today we got on the show NFL analyst Myron Williams, Keith Engel from TGI Sports Talk, and the Philly sports guy. As we cover a lot of sports today, a lot of big news and almost everything from, of course, the March Madness to NFL signings to MLB signings, some information in the Major League Baseball to NHL. So everything is up and ramped up and going, and we're going to try and get it all out to the people as we go through all our guests today. So, Jack, we're going to start with the March Madness. March Madness, of course, is one of the highest played playoff championship series in the country. Everybody seems to have a one bracket or many brackets, and everybody's making their little brackets up and comparing them. There's even money involved in some circumstances. And we watch as teams that we don't even know, players we don't even know, we kind of think we know better than most. And sometimes we do. I mean, it's very hard today. We were talking before the show, Jack. It's very hard today to follow teams like we used to and players like we used to because a lot of them, especially in the big schools, leave early. So, as you were saying before the show, Jack, and I agree with you, it's really hard to follow a Kentucky team or a Duke team or a Auburn team when three of the five players are gone in 1 year. I don't think that will ever change, Jack. I think that's the way it is now.
Yeah, absolutely right, Mac. And it makes predicting who's going to win these games so much more difficult. When we had 4-year players, we saw them develop. We had an idea of how good they truly were based on past performances. But now it's so much more of a crapshoot. I think William Gates some years ago offered $1 billion or so to anyone who could predict every single game in the NCAA tournament correctly. Well, your chances of winning the lottery seem a lot better, than picking each game. Right off the bat yesterday, a good number of people, got eliminated. Very few people are left as far as picking every single game correct. And there are a bunch of games still left to go because it takes just one big upset like we had yesterday in the St. Peter's Kentucky game to throw everything out of whack.
Right. And let's get into scores really quick and talk about today's games. And there's a boatload. Again, tomorrow there's a boatload until we get down to the Final Four. So Michigan beats Colorado State 75-63. Providence beats South Dakota 66-57. Memphis 64. Boise State 53. Baylor moves on, beating Norfolk State 85-49. Tennessee beats Longwood, whatever they are, 88-56. You have Richmond 67, Iowa 63. Gonzaga moves on, beating Georgia State. North Carolina beats Marquette 95-63. New Mexico State in a little upset over UConn. They beat them. St. Peter's, as you was just saying, knocks the blue blood Kentucky out of the competition, 85-79. Creighton beats South Dakota State, 72-69. St. Mary's over Indiana, 82-53. Arkansas beats Vermont, tight game, 75-71. One of my Final Four predictors, UCLA, gets by Akron. Murray State beats San Francisco. Kansas 83, Texas Southern 56. In today's games, we have Ohio State versus Loyola of Chicago. We have Auburn at Jacksonville State, Texas Tech at Montana State, Yale at Purdue. Yale always seems to have a decent basketball team. Villanova at Delaware, USC versus Miami of Florida, Notre Dame at Alabama, Virginia Tech at Texas, Chattanooga versus Illinois, Cal State at Duke, Iowa at LSU, Arizona versus Wright, UAB versus Houston, Michigan State versus Davidson, Colgate versus Wisconsin, and TCU at Seton Hall. So a boatload of games be on all day, Jack, on all different channels. So plenty of college basketball today.
I think, Mac, the two sentimental favorites, sentimental, that's all I'm talking about. It's going to be Duke because it's Coach K's last dance, basically. But I don't think many people are predicting that Duke goes to the Final Four. And, of course, Gonzaga. Will Gonzaga, finally get over the top? Something bothered me about their victory over Georgia State yesterday. They won by 21 points. 21 points is a very decisive victory under normal circumstances, but they were playing a 16th seed, and Gonzaga's a number 1 seed. And if Gonzaga's the powerhouse that we think they are, shouldn't they have completely demolished Georgia State? And I know you might say, what do you want, Jack? 21 points, isn't that enough of a win? Yeah, under normal circumstances, of course. But if you look at the other top seeds, forgetting Kentucky, I mean, they ran over the opposition, like Baylor, for example, once by something like 36 points. Somehow you want Gonzaga to really throw down the hammer.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Jack, that it really doesn't matter that much until you get to as long as you win. And I understand what you're saying. You expect Gonzaga a Final Four pick, maybe a championship pick, just to destroy people. I wouldn't worry about that so much. As long as they win and they win comfortably, as it gets closer, they fine tune. I mean, I've seen teams blow out other teams and then lose the following week. That keeps Gonzaga right. I think I'm not that worried about it. I think I would be more concerned if I was somebody like Auburn or Arkansas or teams that are favored by a lot, as Kentucky was, to get caught. I don't know. Do you think college kids start reading their own news too, like the professional players do, Jack? I mean, they go in, for instance, Kentucky, and they go into St. Peter's and say, this team is, I don't even know why we're playing them. Do you think they do that?
I think they're human. I think they look a little ahead. They look at the other league teams. Some people have actually picked Kentucky to win this tournament. Yeah. They were a little bit of a dark horse, and the players see that. They go on these websites and they see these Final Four predictions, and they see their name in the Final Four, and then they see whoever's making the prediction picking Kentucky to win it all. And even though it wasn't a lot of people, there was a sprinkling of opinion that Kentucky was going to be the national champion. And then they're playing such a low seed, a 16, such a low seed like St. Peter's, I think a 15th seed. Yeah. And they're not maybe as psyched for the game. I mean, they're kind of looking ahead. They're human. Teams look ahead. We hear all this talk from coaches and players that they're not looking ahead. But of course they are. When have you ever heard, Mac, a player or coach saying, no, we're looking ahead to the next game? Right. You've never heard that, okay? No. So what they say, they're just mouthing words when they're asked the question. But I'll tell you one thing about the game with St. Peter's. I mean, there were a lot of long, big three-point shots, made at the end of the game. And you could talk about playing great defense and playing your heart out. But if a team is going to hit long three-point shots, you want them to take those long shots. But there's no answer. There's no defense for hot shooting. I mean, and that's what seemed to be going on with St. Peter's late in the game. They always seemed to hit a big shot when they needed it.
Yeah, and I watched the end of the game, and the coach came out, and I was expecting the coach to be going crazy. I've seen coaches with teams that have upset huge teams, and they're all, laughing and running around. This guy was so calm. I forget the guy's name. But he was talking to the reporter there. He's like, yeah, I told him we'd had a chance, and the kids do have chips on their shoulders, and some of these kids think they could play on Kentucky's team, and then he said think they could play. It's like he gave the utmost respect to Kentucky, He talked about what a great program they were, but he also talked about his team, of course. But Jack, he was calm, like he just beat any other team out there, which I think carries over to the team, right? I mean, if your coach is that calm after winning against Kentucky, maybe they really believe they could beat Kentucky. Of course, they believe they could beat them, or they wouldn't have. But maybe the coach had a lot to do with that, and that's what I thought was really interesting.
You know what I love about the NCAA tournament, Mac, is looking over at the sidelines, the guys who are not in the game, and seeing their level of enthusiasm. I mean, the kids, they're having so much fun. You know what it means to these, kids to just be in the tournament, to get to experience it. You see them doing dances, hugging one another, and it's such a joy to watch. It's such a joy to see the joy that they're having.
Okay. All right. So yeah. Jack mentioned that. My assistant producer says Warren Buffett's offer of $1 billion is still valid. So
I said William Gates, Warren Buffett. Oh, the $1 billion is still out there. I mean, who's going to get every single game?
Yeah,
the only way you pick every single game, Mac, if you have no serious upsets. One serious upset throws it off. And it's hard. Listen, we had number 12 seeds yesterday beating number 5 seeds.
Sure.
It's so hard to get it, Mac.
Sure.
Can you imagine someone has every game right and they're going all the way to the finals and then just missing that game?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So there you go. So I'm getting odds thrown at me and everything. The odds are a long way off, that's for sure. So, folks, I don't know if if anybody picks St. Peter's in their neck bracket, I guess they have a shot. And like you said, Jack, I mean, you have some smaller upsets, New Mexico State beating UConn. I mean, it wasn't a big upset, but it was an upset. And, you've got to have them kind of games too, that where you predict that. I think it's virtually impossible. But, who am I to say? Maybe somebody does get lucky.
Well, maybe the problem is sometimes with the seeding. Some of the teams obviously should be seated near the top. And then, sometimes it's just a couple of games during the regular season or the tournament leading in that kind of shake up the seeding and they give a certain perception. I know a few factors go into it, and one of them is strength of schedule, another's reputation of the program. So sometimes you wonder how legitimate the seeding really is.
I mean, I'm very interested, and I think Keith was on it. He gave me like 4 different people or organizations involved in this, the seeding. I don't know how they do it, because you got to win the conference to get in certain situations, and you could have a losing record, and then you're on the bubble. And I have no idea. I have no idea how they seed it, but it is sure a fun thing. So in NHL, Jack, we'll go through that real quick. We had the Capitals beating the Blue Jackets 7-2. The Stars beating the Canadiens 4-3. Toronto over the Hurricanes 3-2. Flyers come from behind to beat the Predators. In the Battle of New York, the Islanders beat the Rangers 2-1. The Penguins beat the Blues 3-2. Oilers over Buffalo 6-1. Kings beat the Sharks 6-0. Detroit beats the Canucks 1-0. And the Knights finally get a win in the win column, beating the Panthers 5-3. So, folks, that's your NHL.
Well, we have on later, right, the Philly Sports Guy. We'll ask him to make a comment on Claude Giroux. Right. He played his 1,000th game for the Philadelphia Flyers yesterday. He's only the second player in Flyer history to play that many games. The other was the great Bobby Clark. And the trade deadline is March 21st. So it's 3 days away. And they were mobbing Claude Giroux. It was kind of like a farewell game for him because they anticipate he's going to be traded,
right,
to a team that maybe has a chance to win a Stanley Cup. But considering he's been a Flyer his whole career, and he's a legendary Flyer whose number I would guess that they would be retiring, why move on from him altogether? Why not let him finish his darn career as a Flyer? Maybe that's what he wants to do. They should sit down with them and have this discussion. Maybe they have.
That's what I think.
Something bothers me about certain players. You want to see them play their whole career with the team, but it seldom works out that way.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine they've had discussions with him. ask him if he wanted to go to a competitive team. I mean, the Flyers, of course, this year and probably next year are not going to have a competitive team. So maybe they have talked to him about it. And I mean, I guess I would be, if I was in his position, I would be kind of torn. I would want to finish out my career with the team I started with. But you also, you think about business part of it, right? The salary cap. And if they are going to trade him, I would imagine they'll trade him to a place, I would hope anyway, where the team has a chance. I don't know if he has a no trade clause. I don't know what his contract is. But I would imagine because of what he did for Philadelphia, they would try to get him on a competitive team.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Mac, you know who I don't particularly care for, but I respect a great deal for the view he had was Reggie Miller, the Indiana Pacers. He played for the Pacers his whole career, but late in his career, they offered to trade him elsewhere to go to a team like the Lakers, the way Karl Malone went there, the way Gary Payton went there, to try to chase a ring, to get a ring. And Miller didn't want to go. He said it wouldn't have meant that much for him to just go and be a part-time player and be on a championship team. He wanted it to be with the Indiana Pacers. If it couldn't be with the Indiana Pacers, it wouldn't have meant that much to him. Yeah. And he was right. He was absolutely right. You spend your whole career somewhere, and then you just go somewhere else at the very end of it just for a championship. I don't like that. If a team isn't going to meet your contract demands and you go elsewhere, then it's different. But to just chase a ring, I don't like that at all, Mac.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, as a fan, I don't either. As a player, maybe I feel differently. I don't know if I've done everything I could, and I've never got a ring, and I've been close. I don't know if I'd do it. I'd be torn. I'd really be torn. Jack, so in the NBA last year, a very defensive game last night, only one game, very defensive. The Pistons 134, the Magic's 120. So, the defense was full blown last night. And other news, Steph Curry's MRI results are under review. That's not good, Jack. You look at the MRI, you normally, you say there's nothing wrong. Well, if they're reviewing it, there's probably something that they see that they probably have to take a closer look at. So I don't know if they'll keep him out the rest of the. Go ahead, Jack.
That was a result, Mac, when they played the Boston Celtics, and Marcus Smart kind of hit him low. And after the game, the Warrior coach, Steve Kerr, who had coached Marcus Smart, in the past, I think in an international competition, he had a discussion with Marcus Smart about it. And he told him that's not how you go about doing it. Other people defended Marcus Smart, knowing he dives for everything. He plays the game hard. Yeah. But it's a sensitive thing. You can never go low with a player. I mean, it's inexcusable. I know you might be diving for a ball, but you really got to be careful as a defender that you never hit a guy when he's low.
Yeah, I don't think he did it on purpose, Jack. I really don't. I don't think he tried to.
No, I don't think he was trying to injure him. Yeah. I'm not saying that at all. But sometimes you have to be a little bit careful there. Maybe there should be some rules in place as far as diving for ball. If you make contact with another player when you're diving low, it's considered a flagrant foul or whatever. Maybe there should be some rules in place.
I don't know. I think we got enough rules, Jack, but maybe you're right. Who knows? MLB is talking about bringing back the guy on second in extra innings, the ghost runner, right? So they're talking about doing this, and it's not because of the MLB, Jack. The player union reps, they did a survey, and it seems that the majority of the players out there are heavily in favor of this. So they don't want to stay out there for 5 hours playing baseball. They'd rather have that going and having a guy on second in extra innings. I don't like it, but whatever I'm going to say.
Mac, you can't let the extra game, the 9-inning games are long enough. These extra inning games, the fans don't like them. The players don't like them. They're awful. I mean, I've seen games that have gone 18 innings.
Yeah.
18 innings, extra innings. Imagine you lose an 18-inning game. What a waste of time, Mac. It's a complete waste of time. It's like staying an extra 4 hours in school to take a class to get extra credits and then find out you failed the course. And what the heck were you staying a whole semester for 4 extra hours? I mean, it's crazy, Mac. I mean, how long some of these games are lasting. And they've got to find a way to resolve it. Look, if a team can't legitimately win a game in 9 innings, they shouldn't complain about whatever setup is over. Just win the game in 9 innings. And if you just look at the stands, Mac, any extra inning game, look at how empty the stands become. That should be your answer as far as people having an interest in extra inning games. They don't. They don't want these games to linger on. And you've got to kind of put a cap on how long they last after. Well, I'm not talking about the playoffs, that's a little different matter. But during the regular season,
Jack, then instead of doing that and changing how they score the game, why don't you let it end in a tie? I mean, why are we manufacturing?
That's an idea. That's an idea after 10 innings, maybe. Yeah.
Good idea, Mac. Why manufacture runs? Why change the game? Just say, hey, it's a tie. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, but the ties count. That way at least they get some resolve after so many innings, and they don't get a loss. So I don't see, but everybody has a problem with a tie. I don't get it, but that's whatever. I mean, you can't do it in the playoffs, but
No, we have it in the NFL.
Sure.
I mean, they have overtime, but during the regular season, if a game goes 1 extra quarter and no one is ahead, it's a tie. Look, this past season, the Detroit Lions and Pittsburgh Steelers played a tie.
I agree. I don't see what the big problem is with ties. Backstage right now, Jack, we got NFL analyst Byron Williams coming on talking some big news, and we got some big news, huge news in free agency. We'll start off with first, and of course, we'll go through all the free agency and football news with Byron. So let's bring him up. How you doing, Byron?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. What's up? What's up with the receivers and defensive pass rushers? I mean, they're flying around the league like they have, like something's going on, man. I mean, it's crazy out there.
Man, what a good time to be a free agent! I tell you, man. These teams are trying to position themselves to go to the big show, the Super Bowl. But free agency is really moving like no other news ever in the history of the NFL. It's getting good.
I can't keep track, Byron. I mean, I just can't talk about all of it because so much is going on. I mean, I'm dizzy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this has been a big week. I mean, Ever since the free agent opened up, it's been breaking news here and there, everyday surprises. But man, great for the players. It's exciting to see that.
And the trades before free agent happened, it's been crazy. So let's get to the biggest of the biggest. Of course, Green Bay's wide receiver, right? He said he wasn't going to play under the franchise tag. Aaron Rodgers gets that record-breaking salary, and Green Bay just can't afford to pay, 2 players $40-50 million a year. It's not going to happen.
No.
So Davante Adams, who said he wasn't going to play under that franchise tag, gets traded to the Raiders for a 1st and 2nd round draft pick. 2 things, Byron.
Mm-hmm.
2 things. Davante Adams was 30% of the Green Bay's offense last year, so it's going to hurt them. And the Raiders, the West alone, I mean, they're packed full over there right now. Everybody's going to the West except to the Chiefs. What do you think about all that, Byron?
Man, it's going to be amazing to watch what happened this year. But can you imagine, since 2016, Davante Adams have had 69 touchdowns, 50 of those touchdowns in the red zone. So he's been very productive, and Aaron Rodgers, that's who he go to. He's gonna be excited to see what happened. If I were Derek Carr, I would be so excited, to have this type of weapon, and just having this type of player on the team.
Guys, Derek Carr was Davante Adams' college quarterback, so this is a reunion. So that may have persuaded Davante Adams to go to the Raiders, because no matter what you think of Derek Carr as an NFL quarterback, you could attest to this, Byron. Davante Adams' mindset would be, I know this guy. This is my quarterback. I had so much success in college with him. I'm reunited with my guy. That's a great feeling. Also, if you have to go elsewhere.
Absolutely. That's a perfect fit. They've been knowing each other for years, and a reunion like this is great. So I think it's a match made in heaven, so to speak. So it's really going to be good to see what happened with the Raiders this year.
Raiders, Broncos, Chargers, all making huge moves. Kansas City kind of staying pat.
Well, the Packers have 2 number 1 picks, 2 number 2 draft choices. I wouldn't be shocked if there's an elite receiver in college who they're eyeing that they might make some trade to move down and get him, and he'll fill in, Davante Adams slot, and and Aaron Rodgers will be happy and all, and they wouldn't really miss a beat. I would if that happens.
I think they're still going to miss a beat. There's no guarantee that draft pick is going to be close to Davante Adams. So we know what Davante Adams is as far as a pro receiver. We don't know what any of these college receivers are. As I said before, Byron, I think Robert Butler said it. I think you said it, that when a quarterback takes up that much salary, the team has to be very, very smart on the free agents they pick up, and they have to draft really well to keep that team competitive. We know Green Bay is going to win the division no matter what, but after that, we don't. So these draft choices they get from the Raiders and the ones they have, they've got to be really good draft choices to keep Green Bay at that top level team.
Absolutely. And, I was just looking at the receivers that came out the last couple of years. Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. I mean, if you can find a receiver like that coming out of college, that's what you want. But ideally, you don't know what you're going to get in the draft. But they do have some good top receivers. I think it's 5 to 10 receivers that could probably make an immediate impact. But I don't know if they'll get over 1,000 yards their first year in the NFL. But it has happened, so we'll see what happens. I mean, some great talent in this year's draft, which is exciting as well.
I mean, if they pick up a Jamar Chase, they're all set. There's somebody like that, they're all set. The Green Bay, as Jack said, will not miss a beat. So we'll see what happens with that. Amari Cooper didn't take a salary cut. He didn't want to hear that. So Dallas moved on from him. They shipped him to Cleveland. Now, Cleveland's really interesting now. I think Amari's sitting there saying, why didn't I take that salary cap? Because not only are they out of the Watson sweepstakes, Baker Mayfield wants out. He doesn't want to even know about Cleveland anymore. Cleveland says they're not going to trade him. I really don't believe they're not. I think they're going to because you don't want an unhappy quarterback there, and I think they want to move on from him anyway. But Cooper goes from having somebody throw to him like a Dak Prescott to maybe not a Heineke, the backup for the Browns. I can't remember his name right now, but almost the same as having a Baker Mayfield. Jarvis Landry might be gone. Cleveland is in some turmoil. And then
Jarvis Landry is going to be gone. I mean, I can't imagine him coming back to Cleveland.
Me either. And so Cleveland still has a big running game, a good offensive line, a good defense. Mm-hmm. But when your quarterback is up in the air like that, that hurts a team, Byron.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's right now it's kind of chaotic. You want to keep all the chaos down, but man, Baker Mayfield, he's really got upset this week about them interviewing Deshaun Watson and all that type of stuff. So interesting to see what's going to happen there. I mean, I just know last year, everybody was putting Cleveland in the playoffs, and that didn't happen. And so it's a lot of things happening in Cleveland for sure. You're gonna be interested to see what happens.
I mean, let's say they don't move on from Baker Mayfield. Let's say Cleveland refuses to trade him. Well, the relationship, where could it go? Baker Mayfield, might not show up to training camp in the beginning, possibly. But even if he does, what type of leader can he possibly be? I mean, the other players around him know their quarterback wants out. So why would they be listening to him? How can he rally the troops? A guy who wants out, how do you follow his leadership? He'd have none.
Absolutely. I agree totally with that. Right now, it's something that they got to fix immediately. I think it'll be something to put a lid on the team. You definitely want your quarterback situation to be, to be perfect, and they are the key component of your team. And right now Baker is not that person, I don't think. So they're going to have to either make some decisions here in the next week or two during this free agency market or something, because a lot of good things are happening. So maybe they can consider making maybe a trade or something. But I don't know how many teams out there would want a Baker Mayfield right now.
Yeah, I mean, they Cleveland came out and said they want a mature player to play at quarterback. I mean, that's them are some hard words going back and forth, and sometimes people don't get over those words.
Well, Indianapolis needs a quarterback. They have no one there right now, and that's where Baker Mayfield wants to go. So that would actually be a good fit for, them and him. But Cleveland's not just going to give him away. And what does Indianapolis have to give in return? Okay, I mean, Cleveland wants to get value back in return. And New Orleans, if Deshaun Watson doesn't go there, I mean, they would be interested, I'm sure, in Baker Mayfield. But again, what is Cleveland going to get back in return?
Yeah, and plus, there's not too many teams out there looking for a quarterback anymore. I mean, a lot of these places are really fixing that position, and so it's not. And then the Colts is probably the only team that will probably go to the table and talk about maybe acquiring him or something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, hey, the Colts have a decent team all around.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a good team. I mean, any quarterback going there.
And it might be a good fit for Baker just to move and get a whole new atmosphere, new start. So it might be good. It's interesting to see what these teams can come up with.
I got to trade for you guys. The Carolina Panthers give the 6th overall pick in the draft and Sam Darnold to Cleveland for Baker Mayfield. I wouldn't do it if I were Carolina, but they might be intrigued enough. They might be willing to do that. And if I were Cleveland, I would jump on that.
Yeah, that sounds really good. That really sounds good.
Jack and his GM moves. Pass rushers. Von Miller, of course, the Bills pick him up for a good-sized contract. Khalil Mack is back with the Raiders. Cox for Raiders get like $100 million. A lot of that guaranteed, not all of it. I mean, pass rushers are in high demand and making big dollars right now, Byron.
Man, amazing. It's just the pass rusher right now, Chandler Jones went to the Raiders, and like I said, Khalil Mack went over to the Chargers, and big back with Brandon Staley, the linebacker coach that used to be in Chicago. So it's going to be interesting now. And, man, Buffalo Bills, I tell you, they look like they are ready to do exactly what the Rams did last year, and that's to win the Super Bowl. They added some impact players. They put a strategy together, and of course, I'm excited to see what happens, because these rush defensive ends and the rush ends they are the highlight news right now. I mean, you're talking about history being made in the National Football League in the free agent market.
Yeah,
Cole Beasley is going to be leaving the Bills, and they released him. And, Mac and myself, Byron, got into a debate about Von Miller. I think he's really, really good. He's still an all-pro type player, but he's not quite the player he was. They said the same thing about LT in his last years. I kept hearing these commentators with these ridiculous comments saying he hasn't lost a thing. Lawrence Taylor was excellent at the end of his career, but he wasn't the same LT. And that's how I look at Von Miller. I mean, I just compared him alongside Aaron Donald last year. And Von Miller at his best was running close to neck and neck with Aaron Donald, very close at Von Miller's best. And you could tell Aaron Donald was 1 and Von Miller was 1A last year. And he's 32. The Bills are getting a player who's still going to be extremely good, but he's not the Von Miller we knew. That's what I was arguing with Mac about.
Yeah, I mean, ever since he had that knee injury and a couple of years ago, that slowed him down. But he's still an impact player. Teams going to have to put some type of strategy blocking pattern on this guy once he rushed. But yeah, he really made an impact during the playoff run for the Rams last year. But yeah, he's not the same, no doubt. But he definitely gonna make some things happen and gonna add value to the defense. So yeah, and that's what they need. They need somebody that can turn some big plays around, make some turnovers, incredible sacks, and he still got that kind of capacity, but he's not the same. But yeah, he gonna bring value to the team, and plus 2 Super Bowl winners. And did you guys know that not too many guys have 3 Super Bowls from 3 different teams? So if he wins a Super Bowl with the Bills, he'll be the only second guy to win 3 Super Bowls. And I think McMillan's the only guy who have won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different teams.
Could be. I was thinking him or Romanowski, one of the 2.
No, they said McMillan is the only guy, and so Vaughn might have that chance if the Bills can win the Super Bowl. He'd be the second guy in the NFL history to win 3 Super Bowls with 3 different teams.
There you go. Well, good for him. Hopefully, he helps the Bills defense, because that's where they needed help last year. So, if the Bills defense can,
well, I'm rooting for the Bills this year. I might put them in my top pick for the big run this year.
Oh man, you're way ahead of yourself here, Byron. Take it easy. You got plenty of time. I mean, you saw what happened with the Cardinals last year. Take it easy. Let's just wait and see what happens.
Yeah, how come most of last season Byron was bragging when the Cardinals got off to that great start? Most of the year they were winning. They looked like the best team in the league. Byron kept saying, I told you, I told you, I told you. Then when they started falling apart, you didn't hear Byron say anything about them.
I had to put a donut in my mouth.
Speaking of leadership with your team, the Cardinals, Kyler Murray, he's not showing himself to be a leader there. I mean, how can the other players respect a guy like that, the way he seems to be acting?
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things that I try to tell players in their 20s. You know, you got to go in and be humble. To keep don't say a whole lot. Just play the game and value yourself accordingly. And you know, sometimes you can stick your feet in your mouth. I'm a true example of that. But you definitely, got to be, you got to be humble, and you got to be careful what you say around the media and so forth. And players need to learn that, because you can damage your career and then things can go south. So you're exactly right.
Let me throw a compliment to the biggest pro in the NFL who handled himself like a professional last year was Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah. They draft Trey Lance high. Everyone had Garoppolo out the door. He took it as a pro. He competed in camp. He knew Trey Lance was their quarterback of the future, but he didn't let it affect him. He had a great attitude, respected Jimmy Garoppolo.
Great example, no doubt, and very valuable. And wherever he decided to go, wherever he go, he gonna bring all that to that team, and that's what you want, and that's how you build. That's how you build winners. That's what's happened. That's a great example.
Speaking of quarterbacks, 2 I want to talk about. First, Trubisky going to Pittsburgh. Now, I think Trubisky kind of got the short end of the stick. He was in a couple playoff games with Chicago. Everybody was saying how great he was. Then he falls down next season, or I should say the Bears do. And then he starts getting blamed for everything, including how bad the team is playing. While the quarterback is a major piece, it's not the only piece. There's a big pull between the GM and the head coach. They're not calling the right plays, and he wants to start somebody else. They want to go out and get another quarterback. They bring in Foles. I mean, that is probably one of the worst positions a young quarterback can be put in. Right, first 2 years you're in the playoffs. It looks like you're going good, and then all of a sudden they start blaming them for the losses and stuff, and the head coach seems not to support him. Takes a little refuge. He goes over to the Buffalo Bills, becomes second string under Allen, learns what he can learn, and now he's got a chance again, Byron.
And I'm excited for him, because I met him several years ago at the Super Bowl. Great guy, and I just think sometimes it's the right offense, the right philosophy, and then the players around him. I don't think they add enough value for the players and the things that they do in the offense, for us being able to utilize the other players, the tight end, the running back. So when I look at that too, I think some of the receivers got hurt during his time there with Chicago. So maybe, he can get into the right system and then show what he can, just show his talent and then maybe add some valuable players around him, because the game of football is not about one player. It's about the combination and the chemistry of those players. And so it's going to be a good shot in the arm for him. He's going back, on the east side, East Coast. And I think it'll be good. I think it's going to be fun to watch what the Steelers does, because the Steelers, they always be there in the playoff run. And they got some good coaches on that coaching staff as well.
And if you think about it, the quarterbacks of the Steelers, for the most part, they're kept and they play. I mean, you go back to Bradshaw, even O'Donnell for a while, and then of course, Ben. I mean, they're given a good shot at playing, and win or lose, and they seem to become successful under their coaches, and they seem to become successful under the way they do things there. So I wish Mitch all the luck in the world, because I think he's a good kid, and I think he does.
Can I just say something, guys? We're assuming that Mitch Trubisky is going to be their starter. I don't believe Mike Tomlin promised him the starting job. Maybe told him you're going to compete for the starting job.
No doubt.
Mason Rudolph looks better in training camp. Rudolph has been with them a while. Rudolph might start the season as the Steelers starter.
I don't think Rudolph can. Rudolph can't compare to Mitch. No way.
He's been with the Steelers, but if you've had a guy, you drafted a guy in the third round, the way the Steelers did, Rudolph, and he's been with them a few years, sentimentally, you kind of want him to win the job. You want him to be the heir apparent. So I don't think they maybe closed the door on that, because if they did, wouldn't they have moved on from Rudolph?
I just still think too, though, Jack, that you still got to have two good quarterbacks, very dependable quarterbacks, because of the way the injury bugs are in the NFL. But I just think Mitch is going to be the guy. He's going to be the guy that they continue to build the offense around. That's my decision, my opinion on that.
I mean, even Mike Tomlin said he wanted a mobile quarterback, and of course Rudolph is not that. And Trubisky is younger, has more talent. You could just see if you watch the games that Rudolph plays in, and that Trubisky played in. Trubisky, it's not even a competition. Trubisky,
it's like night and day. He can run. Mitch can take off on you.
He's got a cannon for an arm when he uses it. So I mean, it's just a matter of him fitting in there, and I don't think he'll have any problem. He'll open starting there, no problem. And
then another thing, Jack, how many third round quarterbacks you notice tearing up the league in the National Football League?
Fourth round is Zach Prescott. Kirk Cousins was a fourth round.
Kirk Cousins ain't doing nothing. I wouldn't want Kirk.
No, not tearing it up, but he's been a starter his whole career, Kirk Cousins. And he's put in a lot of years already, and he was a fourth round selection. That was a weird draft, because that same year, RG3 was taken by the then Washington Redskins with the second overall pick in the draft. So what were they doing using a fourth round pick on a quarterback? That puzzles me. It worked out for, Washington doing that. Yeah. But that's really puzzling, that they wouldn't use that on a position player.
Yeah, that's true. That's good. Good notes. I want to make sure we get it all out there, so that's good.
Let me just say one last thing. The Steelers' Mac's guy is Dwayne Haskins. If you left it up to Mac, the Steelers should have just given Dwayne Haskins a starting job.
I don't know. I have no idea what he's talking.
You were talking high about Dwayne Haskins when he went to the Steelers, that he might be.
I was
replacing Big Ben.
I was saying that Dwayne Haskins had a big arm, and if he could, the Pittsburgh Steelers might be able to work with him, and maybe in that system he might be able to do good. But as far as you're talking about Dwayne Haskins being my guy. He was never my guy, Jack. I was just looking forward to seeing if the Steelers could do something with him, which they haven't been able to. So
he was highly rated. He was highly rated. I tell you, they thought he was going to be, the next great thing in the National Football League for his quarterback.
Yeah. So, a lot of things work out bad. New Orleans seems to be leading in the Watson negotiations now. Of course, we know Watson still has those civil suits and a lot of stuff out there. Probably the NFL will probably suspend him or whatever action they're going to take as soon as he becomes a starting quarterback. But New Orleans, you got Kamara there. You got a group of receivers there. You got a decent defense. I mean, I don't know if it helps them catch Tampa, but it will be an improvement for sure, right?
Yeah, I think it'd be an improvement because their defense is lights out, and so I think if they could bring him on there and bring him on the team and without all this off the field issues, I think the Saints would be fit to go. I mean, I can see them making a run at the playoffs and challenging Tampa Bay. So I think that'd be really good for New Orleans.
No one's talking about the Alvin Kamara situation. That's very serious. Him punching a guy in the Las Vegas casino, his friends beating the guy to a pulp. That's very serious business. They have it on videotape, but you don't hear the league talking about it. They're going to have to address that at some point.
Absolutely. And I was like shocked to see that happen and him being in the middle of that stuff. And it's out of character for him to be in something like that during the Super Bowl week. The Pro Bowl week that happened. So it's gonna be something to watch.
The players have to learn to walk away from. I don't know whether the guy made a remark or not, but even if he did, you have to somehow learn to walk away from it.
It was all over. It was all over the elevator, Jack. But nothing good happens in Vegas. We know that people are getting trouble all the time. Last thing for you, another receiver got signed. A big signing for the Rams. Allen Robinson gets signed for 3 years, $46.5 million. Former Detroit Lion, Houston Texan. I mean, he's an older guy, Byron, but is a very good receiver. It just adds to the Rams' arsenal.
Oh yeah, it really gonna make the Rams very, very competitive up there with, and Allen Robinson bring a lot to the table. I mean, he got hurt last year, but he is a valuable receiver and one of the top receivers that that they come in and make an immediate impact and just add more value to the receiving core.
Wait, I'm confused about the numbers. They have Kupp, they have Woods, they're great. Now, what happens to OBJ now?
He's a free agent.
But is he coming back to the Rams? I mean, how badly do they want him back now? I mean, you can only have so many receivers, impact guys.
Yeah, I just think he might go somewhere else on this free agent market. I mean, it's five guys that looking for a contract, and OBJ is one of those receivers. So I'm thinking that now that they signed Allen Robinson, I think OBJ is probably going to be out.
Reunion with the Giants possible?
Maybe so. That would be interesting. I think that would be stirring up some good exciting news. I think the Giant fans would love that.
Please don't get me going. Please don't get me.
It's better than Antonio Brown, Mac. If you have a choice between the two, give me OBJ.
You can have them both, Jack.
You got Jarvis Landry out there, Will Fuller, Juju Smith, and Julio Jones. Those are the five receivers free agent right there.
Julio's ready to play for the Flag Football Senior League pretty soon here, Byron.
Houston's the best of the group.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, Byron, any NFLPA news updates? I know you've been there at a couple meetings. Anything big happening there for the players?
Yeah, I mean, mostly, they was talking about at the players rep how good the league is doing, the newness and the lightness of players' digital cards and things like that off the field. They gonna pay about $25,000 to $28,000 in union dues, and then one of the things that we did last night, we had our first NFL in-house meeting last night. Went well, and the Chicago rep, his name is Pat Scales. He's a long snapper, Jack. He's 6 or 8 year for Chicago. He came out to our meeting last night, so we had a current player to help and talk about some things at our meeting, which was good. And right now the NFL is in a great position of profit and making money, and everything's controlled by the owners, but the players is excited about these contracts that these players are signing now. One of the things we talked about last night is maybe adding a little bit more benefit value to the retired player side. We have some older guys in there. Of course, they're going to be complaining. So we all are, of course, getting older. So definitely want to try to see what kind of benefits that they can add by the NFL signing a deal with these TV deals. Maybe they can give us a little bit of that percentage, and so those are some of the things that we've been talking about.
Yeah, long snappers, Byron. It's the way of the future. I'm telling you.
Long snapper, man. I'm telling you, the pad make about 1.2 million, so not bad.
I would like to see the NFL allow some of the lesser guys who could barely make a roster play in the XFL, the USFL, make a little money doing that, keep their game sharp. I know there's the risk of injury, but I'm not talking about your main players like Patrick Mahomes. I wouldn't want him quarterbacking one of those teams. But the lesser guys who might not make a roster, but they think have a good chance, who are under contract, maybe release certain guys.
Yeah, and the minimum salary next year going to be $705,000, and then the salary cap is jumped up to 208.5 million. So for the salary cap, so they steady improving, increasing the minimum salary as well as the salary cap.
Byron, everybody's excited about all these free agents and signings and stuff. But to me, it's kind of sad, too, because you got a lot of players that would stay with their teams and stuff like that if the salary cap and the offers. I would love to see some kind of new rule that players has to stay at one spot for a longer time. I mean, it's starting to look like fantasy football to me. You just go out there and you pick your team. And to me, it's kind of it's turning the page on a real great time in the NFL that you actually, you watch the Pittsburgh Steelers and you had, me, Joe Green was there and Terry Bradshaw and Lynn Swann and John Stallworth. That was you saw them play their whole careers there. You're not seeing that as much anymore.
Bobby Wagner, the Seattle Seahawks.
That's kind of sad.
Years, Hall of Fame player, and now he's forced to move on, being a salary cap casualty.
It's kind of sad to me too, Byron.
Yeah, it is. That's the sad part of the game. These players have made a living and their career there. Like Emmitt Smith had to leave Dallas at the end of his career. Blah blah blah. It's really sad to see things like that happen.
Yeah, and it's not so much. I mean, Emmitt Smith had a full career at Dallas, but a lot of these players were there 3-4 years and you're just starting to get to know them.
Emmitt Smith didn't play his whole career at Dallas. He went to Arizona at the end of his career.
I said he had a good full career at Dallas, Jack. In other words, he played for quite a long time, and he left because Dallas didn't want him anymore. But not today. You got a lot of players leaving as you're just starting to get to know them and root for them and having them on your team 3, 4, 5 years. And that's the sad part of it to me, And hopefully they can do something to change it. I don't know if they can, but I would love to see something.
Yeah, it's free agent done changed the whole concept of players staying in one place, and that is sad.
The players have some say. Speaking of the Giants, for example, Blake Martinez is coming back to the Giants. That slipped under the radar. That'll be big for their defense because not only his play on the field, but the leadership he provides. If players really want to make it work too, I think they usually can. But I understand, it's a business at the end of the day, and they're looking out for their family, trying to get the best contract they can. But it's not always 100% on the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I agree. Hey, Byron, again, thank you for coming in as you do every Friday. We have that draft show coming up 28 April. Hopefully, it's going to be at nighttime. Hopefully, we can get you in here for that, even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes. Give you your thoughts on the Giants draft picks and stuff like that. I'll be in touch with you later, of course, about this stuff, folks. Okay. Byron Williams, NFL analyst for us. Also, check him out in J&B Talking Shop every Wednesday with Jim Jeffcoat, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. Great show. Byron, again, thank you for coming in.
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Take care, Byron.
Okay.
So there you go, folks. Byron Williams, our NFL analyst, always does a great job for us, Jack. Folks, we're going to take our first official timeout. On the other side, we'll be having Keith Angle. We'll be coming up talking, of course. He's all into college basketball and March Madness. We'll talk a little bit about the Yankees, too, with some interesting stuff has developed over there. So, folks, we'll be right back after these messages. You may. It drives me crazy. Try her again. Tide. See if I can bring it up. All right. There we go. Yes, yes.
I'm Chiquita Banana, and I'm here to say I am the top banana in the world today. Now you know the best bananas in the land, so don't slip up with an inferior brand. When it says Chiquita, it's a very good day to buy bananas.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
I heard you want to be a Frito Bandito like me. You do? Then you must sing the Bandito song. Let's sing together. You just follow the bouncing Fritos corn chips bag. Ay, 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 ay. I am the Frito Bandito. Hey, I like Fritos corn chips. I love them, I do. I want Fritos corn chips. I'll get them from you. Ay, 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 ay. Oh, I am the Frito Bandito. Give me Fritos corn chips and I'll be your friend. The Frito Bandito, you must not offend. Now, boys and girls, you are Frito Banditos too. You sing the Frito Bandito song and you loco for crunchy Fritos corn chips. That's nice. Munch, munch, munchy bunchy Fritos corn chips.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things.
There you go. It can.
McDonald's is our kind of place. It's such a happy place. Happy place. A clean and snappy place. McDonald's is our kind of place. It's such a happy place. McDonald's is our kind of place. Your kind of place.
McDonald's believes in getting food to your kids before they get to each other. Such good food, too. McDonald's famous French fries, triple thick creamy shakes, lean beefy cheeseburgers and hamburgers, icy cold soft drinks. And here's a plus, spill-proof lids on all beverages. Another plus, napkins that are big as a bib. Quality, cleanliness, extra care service. That's McDonald's. A total value that's unmatched anywhere.
McDonald's is our kind of place. It's such a happy place. McDonald's is our kind of place.
Your kind of place.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Now we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on live Thursday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m., live on YouTube, Roku TV, and Facebook. Of course, as we do every day, we update you on all the sports news, information. Friday's a good day because we have a lot of our guests in that share some of their opinions with me and Jack, give a different perspective sometimes, and sometimes they agree with us, which we like very much when they do that. But it's good having all these guests on. Next up in a few minutes will be Keith Engel from TGI Sports Talk. You know, Jack, as I was saying when Byron left, and I know it is what it is now in sports, and it's really in all sports except maybe hockey. I mean, they have big trades too, but you know, it just seems like there's something missing now where you can't really root for your team as much as you used to. A lot of people root for players now. I understand why, because they move around so much and their team isn't the same team they had last year. But it's hard for a fan of a team to really get into their team anymore. I try to watch the Giants every chance I get. I work a lot, so I'm at work looking at them, watching them, and it's so hard when the guy that was on the team last year that did a good job and saying the Giants example anyway, their defense was playing pretty good 2 years ago, but they got rid of a couple of players that really affected them, and of course it fell apart. And it's hard for me, unlike when I was younger, to root for my team even when they're bad. It's just crazy to me now.
Yeah, I mean, that carries over to most sports. Even we were talking about the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
And when we used to have the 4-year players, and now the exceptional players, the great players often play no more than 1 year in college, and then they move on 2 years at most. And you like the familiarity, and especially with the NFL, one player's going to one team, then he's on another team. They just move around. But the thing I think that bothers us is that the player's a good fit for the team he's on. He's been successful. And then the team moves on from him at times because they can't fit in his salary under the cap. So the way it's set up, I mean, we like the days like with the New York Yankees, Derek Jeter, Jorge Posada, Bernie Williams. They spent their whole career with the Yankees, Mariano Rivera. They were Yankees for their whole career. And you just don't have that, anymore to the extent. I mean, we might not mind it so much if an athlete's with a team, let's say 13 years, and then his 14th and 15th year, he goes elsewhere the last 2 years because he's no longer as good, but he wants to hang on and he doesn't want to retire. We can understand that. But the athletes are moving well, they're practically in the prime of their career. And, it's hard to identify with them when they, with teams when that goes on.
I agree. And Keith's been backstage. Welcome, Keith Engel, to the program.
Putting those in. Thank you, guys.
Sports Talk. Great show over there on the Northeast Streaming Network. Keith does a great job over there. And Keith, I know you've been listening, and you're old school like us. And just to you real quick before we press on with the other things, I mean, it's got to be the same way with you, right? I mean, you missed the days, I would imagine, whether your team was good or bad, you kind of form a bond with your team, right? Your players on your team, the ones that are getting better, and you could see some kind of growth. And, no matter how bad the Giants were, I used to love watching Ralph Heck and Fred Dreyer and Spider Lockhart and all these players. And I knew they weren't going to go to the playoffs, but I mean, I had some kind of relationship. It's hard to do that now.
It's very hard. And I mean, all you need is look at the Freddie Freeman situation is a perfect example, right? There's a guy who should have played his entire career in Atlanta and retired as a Brave. And that stuff just is not, it's going to be such an exception today. The Derek Jeters, there's not going to be those guys anymore. And it is a shame for the home teams. It's a shame for the players in my mind. But, again, the teams and the players both have just changed their whole philosophy. The teams don't care about that type of situation anymore. Having guys there in their entire career, and the players, are too often chasing money. And even if they deserve it, and the home team may not be willing to give it to them, the home team doesn't care about keeping them around for the sake of a legendary status with one team. which is a shame. It's a
It,
huge
is,
shame.
it really is, Keith. I mean, I know you were a fan of some Patriot teams that were pretty bad.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, you got to know the Russ Francis and the
Steve Grogan. I've seen Grogan for 15 years. Dressed like a linebacker at the end of his career.
Let me just say, Mac. I mean, you gave great examples, except for Fred Dreyer. He went to the LA Rams. He got traded.
True.
Some guys did move around, right? But
but you mentioned, Keith, the Atlanta Braves. They're the least loyal organization maybe in all of sports, because look what happened with John Smoltz. He was there, seemed like 20 years, and then over like a little sum of money, they let him go to the Boston Red Sox, basically.
Great point. I mean, is it about money? Because, they signed Olsen to a huge contract. They could have brought Freeman back.
There was some indecisiveness, and then the Braves didn't want to wait to see what he would do. And again, I mean, I get it. Believe me, I get it. I just, when you watch the Pittsburgh Steelers, or you watch the Boston Celtics, or you watch,
good point.
All these teams, that was your team and that was your players. And it's kind of sad to me, whether it's good for the players or good for the game. I don't know. It looks like a bunch of guys playing fantasy football, just picking players out right now. And it's kind of sad to me, but I know we ain't going back to the old way. No matter what. So
I agree.
So Keith, let's get into March Madness a little bit. The biggest surprise, of course, was St. Peter's beating Kentucky. A lot of people had Kentucky at least getting to the Final Four. A few picked them to win it. Goes to show you, man. See, I talked to Jack about this a little bit. I think, especially at that level, that you go to see it. You're Kentucky. And you're going to play against St. Peter's, and who cares? And all of a sudden, at the end of the game, they're there, and you make a mistake, or they make an unbelievable shot, and you're out. It's got to be crazy going through something like that.
It is, and this also illustrates the point you were making previously, though, too, that these mid-majors, like St. Peter's, like St. Mary's, like Loyola Chicago, their kids stay. They don't have the superstars that are one and done. They've got experience, though. When they get into this level of play, it kind of levels the playing field, and they've got a chance to compete against the more elite teams, because the elite teams have better players in a lot of cases. I mean, you can't argue the fact that player for player, Kentucky's more talented than St. Peter's, but St. Peter's is deep and experienced, and that makes a big difference in this situation of the dance. So
hitting those long 3-pointers didn't hurt.
I mean, it was a great game, a lot of fun. I only had Kentucky. Yeah, I only had Kentucky going to Sweet 16, so I didn't mind St. Peter's knocking them out. And I love to see those types of games. It was a lot of fun to watch. I enjoyed it too, because Matthew Lee is a point guard on St. Peter's, and son of Butch Lee, who played on the Marquette Warriors and was national champions in 1977. And he's been on my show a few times, and he's a really great guy. So I had a rooting interest there as well. So it was a lot of fun to watch that game.
Keith, these replays are driving me crazy. Late in the Kentucky game, they keep showing a replay over and over that was inconclusive. The refs ruled it would be Kentucky's ball. Finally, it seemed like on about the 6th, 7th replay, they showed the ball maybe touched the fingertip of the Kentucky play, and that was a key part of the game. That was the backbreaker for Kentucky. These replays, and he even wonders that conclusive at the end of the day.
That one was conclusive, though, once they found that last shot. And they didn't, and again, even the networks didn't show that shot until, after they were reviewing it for it seemed like an eternity. And I agree that it kind of slows down and breaks the rhythm of the game, but the replay's there to get those calls right. And they made the right call in my mind in that. And I never saw that until the very last shot. It looked like it went off the St. Peter's player all the way until the very last shot. And you saw it hit the guy's finger. I think very conclusively, but I don't know. I mean, replay is kind of a sticky wicket for me in all sports. I mean, I think it gets used the wrong way in too many situations. It's supposed to change the egregious calls, not the bang bang calls, or the guy taking his foot off a base in baseball and you got to put a glove on. I mean, that's not what it's for. But I'd rather just leave the human element in it and take the replay out of the games. But as we talked about before, Mac, we're not going backwards. The genie's out of the bottle.
We're not. So let's get to today's games real quick, Keith.
Yep.
Ohio State is up against Loyola, Chicago, Auburn at Jacksonville State, Texas Tech at Montana State, Yale at Purdue, Villanova at Delaware, USC versus Miami of Florida, Notre Dame at Alabama, Virginia Tech at Texas, Chattanooga at Illinois, Cal State at Duke, Iowa versus LSU, Arizona at Wright, UAB versus Houston, Michigan State at Davidson, Colgate, Wisconsin, and TCU Seton Hall. You see any possible upsets? I mean, major upsets. I'm not talking about 7-8 or 9-6. I'm talking about major upsets. You see anything out there that could happen that people are maybe looking past?
I think you got to watch UAB against Houston today. That famous 12-5 matchup. UAB's got a really good team, and I think Houston's overrated. I love what Calvin Sampson's done there with Houston, getting to the Final Four last year, but they're not as good this year. They had some bad losses in conference, and I think this team could be ripe for an upset. I do like, and it's not as big an upset, but it will be in a second. I'll explain why. I like Davidson over Michigan State today. Again, a deep team that the A10 is better than people think it is. You saw it with Richmond yesterday, beating Iowa. And I think Davidson's going to beat Michigan State, and I also think they're going to beat Duke in the second round. So that would be an upset. And I guess one other team I would tell you to keep an eye on here. These aren't big upsets, so I'm not going to throw that. I do think Loyola will beat Ohio State today myself. Loyola Chicago, and then TCU. That's a 9-8 game. I think it's a 9-8 game. Seton Hall and TCU. So that's not a big one. One thing I don't think will happen, but if there's somebody going to really shock the world today, watch Colgate over Wisconsin. Colgate can shoot the ball, and they could easily get blown out too, right? But this is a team you got to be careful of. And a lot of these teams, Vermont gave Arkansas a run last night. Like I said, these teams are seasoned. You get really good guard play and experienced players throughout the lineup, and it levels the playing field against some of these bigger teams. And it's fun to watch. That's why I love this. Is a tournament like no other we have in sports in my mind.
I know
your dark horse was Murray State, and they just barely beat San Francisco, went into overtime.
Yeah.
And, are you still as high on them as a potential dark horse? Well, balloon bust yesterday.
They certainly get a break because their next game is going to be against St. Peter's. They're not going to play Kentucky. So, yeah, I mean, the team could easily get to the Sweet 16, and that region might be the weakest of all. Purdue didn't play great down the stretch, and they'd be the favorite now to get to the Final Four. So I've got St. Mary's actually in that bracket getting to the Elite Eight against Purdue myself. So St. Mary's is another team we talked about to watch out for.
Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting to me. I don't know how people can do valid predictions in this stuff. I really don't. I gave my Final Four a couple days ago, Keith, and it was Gonzaga, Arizona, UCLA, who scared the hell out of me yesterday, and Auburn.
Yeah.
So those were the four teams I picked. I'm still alive, but that's not going to last long. So
I did lose one of my Final Four picks. I had Iowa in the Final Four, but I do have 7 of 8 alive in the Elite Eight. So that gives me some hope to be able to make up some ground here. But
I'm just picking. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just picking anybody that
you know what you know as much as the rest of us, because obviously nobody was picking St. Peter's to beat Kentucky.
True, and of course UConn. The men lose. So as soon as the women lose, that's it for sports in Connecticut for the rest of the year. So that's it. We'll be done. Thank you. Keith, let's turn to baseball a little bit. All right. The Yankees made some trades. Some experts didn't like. I don't know why. But it looks like they got their infield, right? You got right now, you got third base, you got Donaldson, shortstop, you got Falafa, second base, probably Lemieux, and first base Rizzo. So that's probably your starting infield. From what I've read, I get the Yankee updates and start spreading the news. They study the Yankees inward and outward. They have a feeling Torres and or Voit are going to be gone soon. They're going to make a trade to try to get something for Torres. He's probably the only one with value there. But that's what it looks like our start infield is. Would you agree with that?
If Torres stays, I think he'd be the starter, and LeMahieu will play around the infield and play every day, basically. But otherwise, yes. I mean, Torres is definitely going to be a trade chip to maybe bring in a center fielder or pitching or a little of both. And I like what the Yankees have done. I do think the Yankees should have been all in on Freddie Freeman. I would have liked to see him go after the kid from Japan that we talked about last week. I don't know how they let the Cubs beat him to that kid. He would have been the answer in the outfield to the Aaron Hicks problem.
I think so.
And the trade with the Twins, I'm not a huge Donaldson fan because I think he's on the backside of his career. I think Urshela is as good a player as we talk about right now, but you had to get rid of Sanchez, and you got yourself a shortstop and a catcher.
I don't think Urshela is good as Donaldson, Keith. I really don't.
Yeah, I'll tell you, he is defensively. I'll tell you that much.
Wasn't Donaldson a friggin' Golden Glove?
Urshela slipped defensively last year. He wasn't as good. He was
well.
Still
They bounced
good,
him around. They bounced him around between shortstop and third base, which is going to affect him as well. But I don't think at this point Donaldson.
I agree with what they're paying Donaldson for 3 years. I do agree with that. They're overpaying to have him for 3 years at this point at age 36.
Yeah, but again, I don't think that's going to be a huge difference maker. I mean,
and he's
I like
definitely a better bat. Definitely a better bat than Urshela.
Well, Sanchez had to go. Sanchez had to go, and the kid they brought in to catch is much better defensive player than Sanchez. He's got a little pop in his bat. I like the kid they brought in to play shortstop, as you said, Kiner Falefa, if I say his name right, Falefa, who probably will only play shortstop for a short period of time because I think one of the kids is going to come up, Felipe or the other kid's escaping.
They'll both be up soon. I'll talk to you a little bit on that. Joey Gallo, you got in left field. Aaron Judge, minus the COVID issues with Kinnan in New York. They better change that in New York.
Let's remember, nobody knows that Aaron Judge isn't vaccinated. People are jumping to huge conclusion just because he won't answer the question. I don't think that's a done deal that he's not vaccinated.
I don't know, Keith. I think if he was vaccinated, he'd say he's vaccinated. I mean,
I don't know. He may just say it's his private business. And I think that'll get straightened out. This is an outdoor venue, and I think the city of New York will probably change their opinion on this by the time the season starts.
I hope so, because that would be ridiculous if you lost a player for half the season because of COVID requirements.
Yeah, well, there's 3 guys on the Yankees and at least 3 on the Mets. We don't know who they are, but again, it's gonna. We saw what happened with the Nets and the Kyrie Irving. It's not a good way to approach the season if you can't play half the games.
Not at all. So our outfielders, of course, Gallo and Judge. Center field's still a big question mark. Gardy's a big question mark. I heard rumors that they might try to move Stanton to back up first. I don't know. I mean, of course, there's a lot of things going on. Like I said, I follow a couple shows that are pretty much into it. So let's talk about the minors for a quick minute here. Very interesting what's going on down there right now, Keith. You got the two major shortstops down there. You got Volpe and you got Peraza.
Thank you. Yeah.
And what they're doing, according to Start Spreading News, who's all over the minors, is they're starting Peraza at second at the minors. What it looks like to me they're doing is getting these two ready to come up together as the middle of the infield. So of course Falefa is a temporary thing, whether Gleyber Torres stays or not. I don't think it's going to matter much. I think by next year you might see a new middle of the infield with Volpe and Peraza.
You might see it as early as midseason. I think it's possible, and I think both these kids, look, you either got one really good blue chip shortstop and a trade chip, or you've got your second base and shortstop combo for the next hopefully 15 years. But we just said that doesn't happen anymore. But it's going to be interesting, and I want to see the kids play. This team needs an infusion of that type of youth and excitement. I'm tired of watching Stanton night after night, and Aaron Hicks, and these guys who just, again.
You're getting tired of watching Stanton with the year he had last year. I loved watching Stanton. He produced. Him and Judge were great last year. I want Stanton to come back and do the same exact thing this year.
Stan's a one-dimensional player, and
he played the outfield. He's not a he's not a liability in left field. He's adequate.
Don't put him at first base; he'll get hurt over there in about.
Well, who knows? Who knows how he might have just listened. The Yankees had this precedent. They even put Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio at first.
Understood.
The old days, yeah.
I can't. look at the team. Yes, nice year out of Stanton last year. But again, there's just on a level of excitement when you watch the Yankees right now.
I agree.
And I think they need that infusion of youth, and I think it will serve the team well.
They need an edge, Keith. They need some kind of edge out there. It's all good to be professional and nice and all this stuff, but once in a while you need the edge, and the Yankees need an edge out there. I don't care where they get it from, but they definitely need an edge, because I'm tired of niceness and professionalism and losing and they're going all the way, and that's okay, and we're competitive. You need somebody up there that's going to come out and say, hey, screw this, I want to win the game, and I'm going to be like, you need somebody, like a Lou Piniella or one of those type of players that come in and they want to win so bad, it spreads to the rest of the team. And
one World Series in 20 years is not okay for the New York Yankees.
Yeah,
it's just not.
You need some kind of change here in personnel. I'm not sure what they're going to do about that.
They need another quality starting pitcher. They need Severino to have a big year. That's
Severino's got to be healthy for this team to compete. Seriously, Severino's got to be healthy, and we think he is, but he pitched. I don't know what he pitched 6 innings last year. They were stellar 6 innings, but
guys, this is overlooked. But the Yankees had the second best ERA in the American League last year with a terrible defense. This is overlooked. So, I mean, they don't have a bad pitching staff. They don't just have a complete pitching staff. And if you're up in the top 3 of the league, top 2 of the American League, and top 3 of both leagues with a bad defense, maybe a good defense will help them out even more. So we'll see.
Yeah, but 2 of those guys are, question marks as far as staying healthy, and Severino and
I understand that.
Is Chapman's closers role in any type of jeopardy at all? Maybe just a little bit.
It's possible because of the way that Loaizaga pitched last year that he could. I think you'll see him finish some games. I don't think Chapman will be the only option, but I think Chapman's still the main guy because Loaizaga is so valuable. Using him at pretty much any point in the game when the game's on the line, he doesn't. And that's the other thing about closers, right? Well, my job is to come in the 9th inning and start. That guy and Loaizaga. That's why Loaizaga is more valuable to me than Chapman. Is they bring him in when that game's on the line. It doesn't matter if it's the 5th inning or the 9th inning or the 7th inning. When the game's on the line, that's when they get him in the game. And that's the important thing to me. It doesn't matter who closes the game. It matters who shuts down the rally when the game's in jeopardy. And I think that's Loaizaga.
The biggest problem with the Yankees is their pitchers don't go deep enough, and they wear out their bullpen before the season is over. And that's the biggest problem they have right now. And so anyway, Keith, we got to let you go so we can get a quick commercial break and bring the Philly Sports Guy on. Thank you for all your information and knowledge, folks. Check out TGI Sports Talk. Fridays, Wednesdays, they have their college huddle. Fridays and Sundays, they have their regular shows. Normally, you'll see Carlos on there, or sometimes Jim Behringer's on there. He has great guests, great show, great talk. Keith, thanks again for coming in.
Thanks for having me, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thanks,
my friend. So there you go, folks. Keith Angle, TGI Sports Talk. And we're going to take our official timeout. On the other side, folks, the Philly Sports Guy himself, Jamie Pags, who is standing at attention for some reason. I don't know if he's going to go marching or if he's going to sing a song for us, but we'll find that all out as soon as we get back here on the Mac and Jack Sports Show.
Here comes the king, here comes the big number 1. Budweiser beer, the king is second to none. Just say Budweiser, you've said it all. Here comes the king of beer, so lift your glass, let's hear the call. Budweiser beer's the one that's leading the rest.
When you say Bud,
and Beachwood aging makes it beer at its best.
when you say Bud, one taste will tell you so loud and clear. There's only one Budweiser beer. When you say Bud, you've said it all.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Infoline. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
Shaper is the one beer to have when you're having more than one. Shaper pleasure doesn't fade even when your thirst is done. The most rewarding flavor in this man's world for people who are having fun. Shaper is the one beer to have when you're having more than one.
Ever wonder what makes Schaefer the one beer to have when you're having more than one? One reason is more than one fermentation. Most brewers just ferment their beer once, but Schaefer is fermented twice. Once to make it beer, and twice to make it Schaefer. The one beer with flavor so fine, it keeps shining through glass after frosty glass. More than one fermentation is one reason, but of course there's more than one reason behind the one beer to have when you're having more than one.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
Alex is just...
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get any...
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, our Friday edition. We're on live Thursday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m., YouTube, Roku TV, and Facebook Live. And up next, folks, backstage right now, as I said, standing at Parade Rest, we have the Philly sports guy himself, and we're going to bring him on and see what the heck's going on. Let's bring him up. Pags, what's going on?
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Where are
Parade
you?
Rest. I ain't heard that said since I was in the Navy.
See, with a couple of military guys talking a little nonsense here. So where you at, Pags? It's foggy as heck out there.
Well, you know, it's really dense fog out here. I'm actually on a job site today. I'm helping out a friend of mine. So there was a place that got completely demoed, and realistically, I kind of feel like that this is the Flyers right now. You're going to see them get completely demoed here in the next couple of days.
Okay. All right. Hey, they won last night, Pags, right? They came from behind, won. Gerard gets his, I think I'm saying right, Giroux gets his 1,000th win. Probably going to be traded, but it was quite a party for him over there.
1,000th game, not win.
Yep, his 1,000th game. And it's kind of apropos that it was able to happen. I was all in a Flyers uniform. He's the second longest tenured Flyer of all time. He's like third. He's in the top three on most of the lists for the Flyers. I mean, ultimately, Bobby Clark may have some more goals and points, but for the most part, Giroux had over 900 points in 1,000 games, which is pretty good.
Does Giroux want to go? If he wants to stay, would he still have to go?
So, no, I think he gets to make the call here. So, and ultimately, there was 4 teams on his list. Actually, originally, I only heard 3, and then the 4th one, who looks like he's going to get traded to Florida, was one of the late addition. And he's going to really get a chance to make a run at a cup.
Yeah.
But would it mean, how much would it really mean winning a cup with another team, not with the Flyers? I brought up the example to Mac of Reggie Miller. He had a chance to chase a ring at the end of his career, and he didn't want to because it wouldn't have meant the same as winning it as an Indiana Pacer.
Well, I feel like at certain points, like this team really underachieved this year and had a lot going wrong with it. And I feel that when you get, he suffered a lot with this franchise. Over the last 10 years, it's been a lot to take on. And, ultimately, after 1,000 games, he was real close. He was at the 6th game of the finals, and they didn't do it. And he hasn't been able to get anywhere close since then. And I really feel like that he doesn't deserve to be on a team like this. He really does deserve to get a shot at the playoffs and such. And I feel like, although if he was to win a cup with Florida or whatever team he goes on to after Florida this year, of course he's always going to be a Flyer, and it will, be a little, bittersweet that he wasn't able to do it with the Flyers. But I think ultimately, most players are judged by the amount of rings. And to get your name on the cup is something that everybody wants to do. Everybody has dreamt about as a player, to raise that cup over your head. And I think that there's a certain point that it doesn't matter for what team you do it. You just want to do it because you've been dreaming about it your entire life.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But I do see Jack's point, too. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, Pags, the teams. Listen, Giroux is a Flyer, right? This is going to be the last few years he plays probably, and I get it. And he's been with the Flyers a long. He's a Flyer, and Emmitt Smith moved on, and a couple of the players have moved on late in their careers. But that doesn't mean that that Peyton Manning's going to be thought of as a Bronco. He's always going to be a Colt, and I can understand that to a point.
Right, and I agree the same way. I mean, obviously he is a Flyer and will be a Flyer. Like when he goes into the Hall of Fame, and he will go into the Hall of Fame, he'll go in as a Flyer. And I would absolutely believe that they're going to sign him for even like a one-day contract so that he would retire as a Flyer. It's just, like I said, he's 34 years old. He's been on this team since he was 18. Right. So, I mean, literally, if the team was better, I would say then absolutely can't go nowhere, and I would expect that they would even re-sign him. But this team is about to go through a major rebuild.
Yeah. I mean, they did that with Jerry Rice. I think they did that with Emmett. They retired as the Cowboy. He retired as a 49er, even though he played for different teams at the end of the career. Pags, talking about the NFL and free agent signings, you guys picked up a pretty good linebacker, Hassan Reddick. But there was a scare there for a minute. It looked like you guys were releasing Fletcher Cox, and you did for half a day. And it looks like they re-signed him for the salary cap purposes. So it looks like Fletcher Cox is back with you. You've improved your defense, your pass rush, and really the teams around you haven't got any better. Dallas lost a few players. The Giants really haven't picked up anybody significant until the draft. And Washington, they got, Carson Wentz. So, I mean, I think the Eagles might even be favored to win the conference this year.
Well, I feel they definitely have a much better chance than they did last year. Obviously, we got to see how things go. I mean, I know that they let Fletcher Cox go. It's news to hear that he just re-signed. He had to do that. It had to do it after 9 o'clock this morning because I didn't hear anything about it beforehand. So on my way out here today, I was listening and how they did let him go, and it was a cap situation.
Right.
He was guaranteed $18 million, so they released him, and then to re-sign him for about 8 to 10. That makes sense because it saves them $8 million in cap space.
Yeah, I mean, I read it too, and they said I read that they were thinking they were probably going to re-sign him. And from what I read, the last thing I read, they did re-sign him. So it looks like he's still with you guys. Hassan helped you guys out. I know Ward got signed to a 1-year contract. He had a cornerback / special teams guy that signed again. And then you got 3 first-round draft picks, Pags. You can get receivers. You can get line help. I mean, you guys got a lot of options this year going into the first round.
I agree. And my hopes is that they'll go defensive line, offensive line, and cornerback. I know that they, I'd love for them to go ahead and pick a linebacker, like a first-round talent linebacker, but that's just not what they do. They don't really put enough stock into the linebacker position. And the fact that Wagner still has not signed with anybody is intriguing to me because I feel like that they may be putting a play in for him. I know originally that the Cowboys were interested in him, but the Cowboys only have $5 million worth of cap space. Now, that may have changed since the whole Amari Cooper situation. But realistically, they don't have a lot of space to be able to deal with whatever they got to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, Bobby Wagner's not what he was. He's more of a situational, maybe first, second down linebacker. He's a little old in the tooth, but he's still a tremendous tackler. I mean, he's still a great leader. So any team getting him would be lucky, I think. So
I agree. And especially because of the way that the linebacker position has been so exposed for the Eagles over the years. That it really, to have somebody who's a veteran leader, even if he's, 70% of what he was 5 years ago, is still 1,000 times better than what we had.
Very true.
And that's what I feel like is really important.
Very true. Very true.
No, I think Bobby Wagner went to the Pro Bowl this past season. So, I mean, to say it's a little long in the tooth, I mean, I put him in the category of Von Miller, maybe not the force he once was, but a pretty darn good player. He would help the Eagles an awful lot with what
he was a 9-time Pro Bowler. So, I mean, you don't make it to the Pro Bowl 9 times, without being good.
Yeah, it's true. So maybe the Eagles aren't done in free agency, but like I said, them 3 first-round draft picks and the things they can do with that are incredible. So we'll see. How much better the Eagles get after the draft. Villanova's playing Delaware. Villanova, they're playing the Delaware Blue Hens. Now, if the Blue Hens beat you, I will be laughing at you and Villanova. I mean, there's no way the Blue Hens should beat Villanova, but as we saw yesterday, anything can happen, Pags.
Hey, Kentucky lost.
Yeah.
2-15. And I don't think the Blue Hens got it. You know what I mean? It's just it's their first time being in there in a long time. I mean, I think they've been in the dance before, but it's been a number of years. Jay Wright prepares his teams to start to peak right around now. So I fully expect that Villanova doesn't take them lightly, but doesn't have any issues today either.
The Blue Hens. Where do they come up with these names? I mean, how is that supposed to be even intimidating? I mean, the Blue Hens. Pags, I wouldn't even want to play. If I was a player, I'd be like, if you don't change your name, I'm not coming there. Let's talk.
Well, you know what? I have a bunch of friends that actually graduated from the University of Delaware, and that Blue Hen mascot, it looks pretty mean.
It's a mean looking bird. Okay.
Delaware, the Jets re-signed Joe Flacco for second go-around to be a backup quarterback. He was a quarterback at the University of Delaware.
Yes, he was.
Overall. So I thought I'd throw that in.
Hey, who knows, right? I mean, you never know. There could be some mean Blue Hens out there. Pags, one other major thing for you. And the Phillies signed Schwarber, right? And Schwarber bats over 260, knocks in over 30-something home runs, drives in 70-something RBIs. He's got some power. He's got some pop in his bat. He's a decent hitter. I mean, you could use him almost anywhere in the lineup. Is he an everyday player? Is he a DH? I can see him with Harper, giving you guys a kind of a 1-2 punch there. What do you think about that signing?
Me personally, yes. I think they gave him too much money.
Okay.
I'll be 100% honest. I was not really out of all the people that they could have gotten. The fact that they got Schwarber kind of was like, really? And to give him $80 million, I feel is like overpaying him. truth of the matter is that really, those numbers that you talked about are all from last year. He's a career 240 hitter who hits a home run every 20 at-bats. So the fact that, but he is a Met killer. So that's the one thing that he has going for him. Obviously, he may have gotten into his swing. I feel like he's going to be a DH because he really is a defensive liability. So my expectation is that he's here to DH most of the time and maybe play a little bit of first or outfield wherever they can put him at and hide him because he's going to be a defensive liability. I felt that they went a little overboard, but truth of the matter is that that's what happens in baseball now. You get paid a lot of money to not necessarily do so great.
If you could, what would you want the Phillies to do? They did get a closer, not closer, but a help in the bullpen for you guys. What would be the Phillies' biggest need to you right now that they gotta fix?
A true number 4 starter or a 3 starter. The truth of the matter is that when there was Kershaw was still available before he re-signed with the Dodgers, I thought that was a little intriguing. I know that Kershaw is on the downside of his career. However, I thought that for like a 1 or 2 year deal, you could bring him in here and that it would move Nola to be a number 3 starter. I think Nola as a number 2 starter is good. Hopefully he has a rebound year from last year. Obviously Wheeler is our number 1. But Nola is not, I don't believe, is that number 2 stuff anymore. I feel like he's a number 3, and he would be a really good number 3, a great number 4. But he's not. He's a number 2, which kind of just is like, okay. So I feel like they still need starting pitching. If they're going to move Ranger Suarez over to the starting pitcher, that means they're going to need more bullpen help. And the bullpen has been the bane of the Phillies' existence over the last few years. Again, last year they had more blown saves in the first half of the year than most teams had all year long. So I really think that they still need some work to do. And, all that would kind of change if you put Chris Bryant in this lineup. Now, I don't know. Last I heard, he was still unsigned. I know that the Rockies were going after him pretty hard.
The Rockies
signed him. They did sign him?
Yes,
I was kind of busy yesterday, so I didn't hear. And I just
7-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
big bucks.
Okay. Once he's off the table now, I still feel like that they could use another bat. I mean, the Phillies score runs. That's the one thing they do. The problem is that they like to give up runs in the last part of the game. So 7th, 8th, and 9th inning has been their problem. So if they could figure out some way to be able to stop the bleeding during those innings and score as many runs as they did last year, you should see 88 to 90 win. Now, is that really going to happen? I hope.
I think the East is going to be a lot more competitive over this year. The Mets made some big moves. Of course, the Rays picked up Olsen, let Freeman go. He's a younger version of Freeman to me, so that didn't hurt him really any. And of course, the Braves got a decent pitching staff. So between you, the Braves, and the Mets, it should be a heck of a race out there. Hopefully.
Well, if you look on paper, it looks like the Mets are the team to beat.
Yeah.
But I feel like I say that every year about the Mets, and the Mets are the Mets.
Yeah.
But the Mets lost a couple of key guys, Stroman and Syndergaard as well. So you look at their pickups, but we don't look at the guys they lost.
True.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I mean, again, another guy who got paid way too much money, the pitcher over there. I mean, again, he's a little bit of a Philly killer, but now he's playing for the Mets, which makes me feel like so was DeGrom. DeGrom was great against the Phillies, but when they took him out, the Phillies were able to beat up the bullpen. And DeGrom, I think, only won 1 game out of the 4 he pitched against the Phillies. That they lost the other 3 starts that he had. Of course, he didn't get charged for it, but
becomes a free agent, I think the Phillies will jump all over him.
I mean, well, I'd like to see that. As he becomes a free agent, he may re-sign with the Mets, especially since they gave all that money to Scherzer. I mean, my expectation is they're going to give the money to DeGrom. I mean, he's only been the best pitcher for the last 3 years.
Yeah, I would with their owner they have there, I don't think he'll go anywhere. So I would agree with that. Anything else going on with the soccer or any other Philly sports that we don't really cover all the time? Obviously the Union have a big match against
New York this week up in Yankee Stadium. Yankee Stadium is used as a soccer field every once in a while, and it's the worst soccer field in Major League Soccer. So, but this team, that team won the MLS Cup last year. So this year now, it's like I said, it's the Union's going up to get an early test. Obviously, they're 2-0-1 so far, so they're right now number 1 in the conference. Right behind them is New York. Still early in the season, though.
Yeah.
And hopefully everybody got to see and learn a little bit about arm wrestling last Saturday. Yeah, we were able to show that, not for 9 hours. It was a lot of fun. I wasn't competing, but I did do some afterwards. Yeah, because like I said, those guys are always asking me, hey, why aren't you competing? I'm like, well, somebody's got to run the cameras. Yeah, but it was a lot of fun.
Is Philly still in love with this James Harden deal? Has it worn off a little bit?
Well, you know what? I think that there has been a little bit of concern about Embiid and some of the things that he's been doing as of late. You know, he's been carrying the team for so long, and now it kind of looks a little bit like he's tired. I mean, when I see him out there, he's kind of bending over, hands on his knees. It's a little bit lethargic. He's going to the ground a little bit more frequently, and that kind of makes a little concern for me. I feel like Harden is growing into the offense, and it's going to take a little bit of time, and Harden understands that, so he's not going full bore right now. But Joel is going for an MVP. So, and my expectation is that he's going all out right now, and hopefully that 7-day window where they get to take a break because they're figuring out the 8 to 10 spot or 6 to 10, that he can rest up a little bit and get himself ready to go for this final push. Because it's not going to mean anything. You know, I mean, there's a good chance right now that we're going to wind up in the number 2 spot. That could be where the Nets go. And to have a first series against the Nets, a second series against Milwaukee, and then a third series against the Heat. Well, this playoffs is not going to be a simple playoffs to go through, and they're going to need every ounce of energy from their starting group. So it's going to be an interesting playoff run.
Any new news on the NFL draft? You guys got anything going besides what we had last year? You reporting from the draft? Is there anything else in the works, Pat?
We're working on a couple of things that I'd like to be able to say we're going to be able to do. I haven't got them 100% finalized yet, but the moment I do, everybody will know. But you know me, I always like to keep things exciting. I don't ever let any grass grow underneath my feet. So we're going to be doing a lot of different things. I'm going to have a lot of interviews, a lot of different spending time doing, like getting people involved, hopefully getting some of the teams involved, also some of the super fans from around the areas. We're going to be doing a lot of reporting from there. Plus, it's Vegas, so it's going to be a lot of fun just in general, just seeing what they're able to do and how they're going to do it there. I mean, I was there in Nashville, was there in Cleveland, watched it in Philadelphia. Dallas, I kind of thought was a little so-so because everything was in the stadium. But I feel like Vegas is going to have to, Nashville, I thought was a great, great time, and the way they did it was amazing. I want to see how Vegas is going to compare to that.
Yeah, you know Vegas is going to be fun if nothing else, Pags. You know that.
Exactly. I have to put on my gambling hat because I'm trying to get in a poker game. I'll have to tell you more about that once I get everything finalized. But we are looking to try to have a 32. Every team got put together all at one poker tournament, and to give for the World Series of the NFL.
Woo! All right, sounds like fun, Pags. Pags, let you get back to work. The fog is starting to break a little bit behind you, so you have a good time. I know how it feels, buddy. I know how it feels to work.
I know all about it. And like I said, it's a construction site. If I turned around to show you, there was a building where, behind, at the other side of me. I figured I'd show this way. It's a lot nicer to look at.
Yeah. All right, my friend. Have a great day, Pags. Thanks for coming on again.
All right, take care, guys.
Take it easy. So there you go, folks. The Philly sports guy. Always fun having him on. Always doing something. Always chasing Philly sports and the biggest events, as he talked about. He brought us the arm wrestling live from Philadelphia Winter Blast, and it was very, very well received. A lot of views on that, so really good and fun. Jack, if you got anything else you want to go before we split here? So anything else you want to talk about?
No, I'm good, Max. So much is going on in sports. I mean, it's hard to keep track. It has me dizzy, Mac. I feel like I'm in a race. I'm running from behind and straining to catch up with the lead pack.
Yes, and
I mean, even with Pax, I don't blame him. He missed the part about Chris Bryant signing with the Colorado Rockies. Normally, that would be a big signing, but so much is going on. I didn't even know Evan Ingram, the giant tight end, was signed. It's with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, until a day later, that's how much is going on. I mean, it's hard to keep up, and especially with March Madness, things are changing by the moment. And at the NFL, the lockout ending in baseball, the hockey trade deadline. Wow, I mean, it's so much is happening, but it's all good stuff.
Jack, I keep hearing fire engines behind you. You're okay over there, right? Nothing's on fire by you?
Oh, yeah, I'm okay. A lot of noise here,
Right. I thought maybe your place was on fire and you'd be the soldier you were. You're still hanging in there while smoke is around you. So I appreciate it.
No, I wouldn't wait till the last minute to escape because I'm doing this show with you, Matt.
Okay.
I got my priorities straight.
All right. Okay, Jack. Folks, thanks for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow with the debate show with Dr. Paul Simendinger, 8 to 10 a.m. Always a great time having the doc in. And then Sunday, of course, we do This Week in Sports with Jim Jeffcoat, where we'll have a lot of guests in again talking about the biggest news in sports. And boy, there's been a lot of big stories, and we'll try to filter through everything and roughage through everything and give you the biggest stories. Thanks for joining us, folks. Have a great Friday night and enjoy a boatload of games in college.